objection.
And ask unanimous consent that I be allowed, after a very brief remark, to engage in a colloquy with Senator Schiff of California.
Without objection.
And just one quick point of fact into this maelstrom of faux outrage about Democratic obstruction, and that is that the proposal that has been made to the Republicans to resolve the customary August jam-up where we clear nominees would actually put President Trump ahead of the number of appointees that the Republicans had allowed President Biden at this same time in his presidency. So you can take what's being said here with a bit of a grain of salt. What I wanted to discuss here with Senator Schiff, Senator Schiff was an assistant United States attorney, which is one of the prosecutors in the U.S. Attorney's Office. I was a U.S. attorney. U.S. attorneys have a higher but slightly more ceremonial role. I think assistant U.S. attorneys would be swift to confess. And AUSAs do a lot of the direct work. And one thing that Senator Schiff and I have both noticed with respect to this Epstein saga has been that the Deputy Attorney General of the United States went out and did a direct witness interview with Epstein's co-conspirator and Trump's friend, Ghislaine Maxwell. And if you don't know the backdrop to this and how things ordinarily work in the Department of Justice, it's hard to fathom how very weird that was. So we would like to take a minute and describe from our perspective how it is that in regular department business, the engagement with witnesses takes place. And I'll turn it over to the former assistant U.S. attorney to give his description of how and when a prosecutor would go into a room with a witness. But as I do that, let me just say that the Deputy Attorney General of the United States virtually never, ever, 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 ever does. For somebody at that level to be involved is truly bizarre. And with that, let me give Senator Schiff a chance to engage in his part of the colloquy here.
Senator, thank you. There are lots of extraordinary and suspicious happenings around the Epstein case in the last few months. But just by way of background to those who may not be following each development, you have Epstein at one point describing himself as one of Donald Trump's closest friends. You have Donald Trump saying at one point that he shares a bond with Epstein over their mutual like of attractive women, and pointing out that in the case of Epstein, they tend to be on the younger side. You have the president recently acknowledging his upset with Jeffrey Epstein for stealing young women from Mar-a-Lago to buy Epstein for purposes that he did not disclose, the president did not disclose. Tragically, in April, one of those women, one of those children, underage women working at Mar-a-Lago, committed suicide. She was a victim of the Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking. Just this past April, she took her own life. But she was one of those women, apparently, that Trump was upset that Epstein was taking away from him at Mar-a-Lago. Now, it certainly begs the question of what did Trump think Jeffrey Epstein was doing with these young women he was taking from Mar-a-Lago? So these are just some of the questions we hope will be answered. But of course, after promising the MAGA base that he would disclose these files, after Bondi promised, then Kash Patel promised, and Trump promised, they've reneged on this. So this is the backdrop in which the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, goes to visit the #1 co-conspirator, Maxwell. And the other background piece of this is that Todd Blanche isn't just some Deputy Attorney General. Todd Blanche is Trump's former criminal defense lawyer. Todd Blanche is the guy that sat in the courtroom in Manhattan helping to defend Donald Trump against the Stormy Daniels allegations against him, for which Donald Trump was convicted of multiple felonies. And as you'll remember from the Judiciary Committee, when Blanche came for his confirmation hearing, you and I were both concerned about whether Blanche would be able to shed his role as Trump's criminal defense lawyer when he adopted the new role of being the #2 person in the Justice Department. So all this begs the question of when this very unusual thing happened where the number 2 person in the Justice Department goes to talk to the co-conspirator, this child sex predator. Is he acting as Trump's defense lawyer, or is he acting as a deputy AG? And as you were alluding, if this wasn't bizarre enough, for a top person like that to go interview a witness is unprecedented. For them to do it secretly, and we don't know, was this recorded? We don't know, was an FBI agent present? It would be unthinkable to do this in the absence of an FBI agent taking down the statement. But there's no evidence that took place. The only thing we do know is this interview lasted 9 hours, and after the interview, Ghislaine Maxwell got the special treatment of being moved from her prison in Florida to a minimum security prison in Texas that is like a camp in which sex predators are not supposed to be sent. So why did you get that special treatment? And finally, one other point I would make before I yield back to you about how unusual all this is the defense attorney representing Maxwell is friends apparently with Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General. And when Maxwell was asked, are you hoping for a pardon out of this? He basically said, we didn't ask for one, but of course the president has said he has the power to do it. They obviously want some special treatment. They're already getting it. But we have no record of any of this. So yes, this is so unusual, extraordinary, unprecedented. And if they think this is going to somehow answer the questions that have been raised by the refusal to turn over these documents, it is the farthest thing from that, wouldn't you say?
I see that the Senator from Maryland has come to the floor to make his consent, so let me yield to him since we're kind of into his time here. But what Senator Schiff and I can both tell all of you is that it is extremely rare for even a United States attorney to go into a witness statement. Unusual in most circumstances, even for an assistant United States attorney to go into a witness statement. And the reason for that is you then become a witness to what took place in that room. And you don't want to be both the prosecutor and the witness in the same case. So the fact that he went in either alone or with no FBI agent or with no stenographer and became a witness to what took place sends off flares of concern to everybody who has served in that line of work. And with that, I yield.
Can I make one last point?
The Senator from Maryland with his...
your indulgence, one other extraordinary fact about this is none of the prosecutors who actually worked on prosecuting Maxwell were present. And the reason you would want them there is they know the facts. Blanche doesn't know the facts. And so when you're interrogating this person, when you're taking their statement, you want somebody who knows the facts who can test whether they're being forthcoming, telling the truth or not. And also, a defense lawyer representing 20 of the Epstein victims asked to be present, and they were turned down. This just stinks to high heaven. And I yield to my colleague from Maryland.